praying salah, right? Where you see brothers and brothers fighting for money and property. Sisters, brothers, fathers, children. Look at our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 1400 years ago he said, I don't fear that you guys will do shirk, assign partners to Allah. But my fear is you will envy your brother and your sister for worldly things. When they have these worldly accomplishments, you will envy it.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to Alhikmat TV for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah is the creator of different faces. Allah is the creator. Allah, Allahu, 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 Allah. Allahu, 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 Allah. All praises are due to Allahu, Allah. All praises are due to Allahu, Allah. Allahu, 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 Allah. Allahu.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you would like to dedicate copies of one of these publications as Sadaqah Jariyah, continuous blessings for your parents or dear ones who have passed away, or fi sabilillah, in the path of Allah, please give us a call so we can place your names on these dedicated publications. You can call us at 954-986-0158, or you can also visit us at www.alhikmat.com.
Allah is the creator of different faces. Allah is the creator of all races. Allahu, 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 Allah.
Assalamu alaikum. Become an Alhikmat AAA member and get discounts from businesses worldwide. By becoming a member, you will receive a free copy of Alhikmat magazine and other publications, emails on current events, recent videos on Alhikmat TV, YouTube, lectures, interviews, and much more. You can contact Alhikmat services at 954-986-0158 or email us at alhikmat@alhikmat.com.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Who is Who on Alhikmat TV, 24/7 online. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor to have with us in Alhikmat studio a very prominent person from South Florida. He is Mr. Bradley Trushin. He's an attorney at law, very experienced in the legal field. He has a lot of experience in dealing with lawyers, and when you can deal with lawyers, that's a fantastic experience. He has been in charge and is still in charge of doing, as he calls it, policing of lawyers, ethics, how lawyers deal with people, the right, the wrong, the ugly way. So it is indeed once more a pleasure and an honor to have you, Mr. Bradley Trushin, with us here in Al-Hikmat studio. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, salam alaikum, and thank you, Sheikh Mohammed, for having me. It's an honor.
And walaikum assalam and shalom to you. Peace be upon you.
Thank you.
So the name of this show is Who is Who in America. A man like you with your experience and your background here, 28 years of experience in the legal field, we would highly appreciate if you can share with our viewers, and our viewers are worldwide, with social media and the media at large, the globe has become much smaller. So your advice, your experience, your field, your career is something that I know almost every second person in the world needs some advice from the legal aspect. So we would really appreciate a little bit of your background, as you know, you were born in Miami, or where you went to school, how you came into law, what motivated you to get into law, etc. Could you share some of that with our viewers, please?
I would be happy to do that. I was born in South Florida, actually, in Miami Beach, and I went to high school in Miami Beach. I had a wonderful opportunity to go to Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, and I went there for my undergrad work. In high school and at Vanderbilt, I always felt that my path would be either in the medical fields or more in the field of psychology, and merging the two. And while I was at Vanderbilt, I participated in an advanced program that typically people would wind up going to psychology grad school to do and getting their doctorates. I published a paper on the organization of the brain holographically at the time. And at the last minute, I made the decision to go to law school. And I always knew that it would be a potential alternative career, but I actually felt a greater calling for the law. And I can't actually put my finger on it and say why at the time, but I think it worked out very well for me after 28 years. I think that somehow I fortunately stumbled upon the right choice. And I decided to go to law school. I went to University of Florida Law School in Gainesville, Florida, which is a state school, received an excellent education there that I'm very thankful for. And then I began practicing law. I started out working as an appellate lawyer, and that's simply a lawyer that does not go into court in trials, but after trials, when people are upset about what happened in the trial, they want to go to the next higher court. And I was one of those lawyers who would write the briefs and argue in the higher court. I still do appeals, but after a while, my personal interest in calling brought me to litigating in the courts and trial work. I have a background that covers state and federal work, federal law, state law, a lot of medical practice, a lot of practice in business and commercial litigation, insurance litigation. I did a lot over the years because what was before me and what needed to be done, I did. But the best thing that could possibly happen to me happened within the last 10 years or so. I had been doing some work for lawyers in the area of probate administration. Probate is just what happens in court either after somebody passes, after they die, what happens to their assets, their estate, their monies, and so on. I started doing some work in that.
And I think that's phenomenal. That's a very smart move you have made, because you are into properties business here now. And a lot of people, when they die or before they die, properties and assets happens to be a very big issue.
It is, and it's an area of work that I had no idea that I would become involved with, and it didn't even sound interesting at the beginning, but it was fascinating. And what it allowed me to do is this: it allowed me to take all of my personal experience that I'm very fortunate to have doing medical work. I represented a lot of doctors and lawyers in medical malpractice cases, and that is simply a case where somebody feels that a doctor or a hospital did not do right by them and caused them to be injured. And I did that work. And the work that I did with business litigation, all of that informs what I do in the courts now. So the focus of my practice is essentially the following. I go to a specialized court called probate court, where I address people's wills. A will is a document that somebody will write that says, here is what I want to have happen after I pass away, after I die, with my property and so on.
No, I don't want to stop you there. No, I love that about the will and the trust and the guardianship, because you will be dealing with a lot of that. People, got their trust fund, who inherits from it, who is in charge, people who are guardians of some parent or uncle, aunt, as the case may be. Now, this could be very complicated with family, blood ties, children, whose names the will is written to, etc. But before getting into that, because that's a very interesting area, and I want to get into details with that. Muslims in America and Muslims in the world especially, we have viewers who view this program worldwide. And I am sure that your advice will be of great benefit to them. There are a lot of immigrants in the United States of America, not only Muslims, immigrants, who are scared to bring up issues on properties that their parents own or they should get, or the wrong person is getting it. They're making all the effort. They have everything in place, but the wrong person gets it. Plus, the wrong person goes and forces someone to sign a document. So we have all those cases. You have another situation. Because of immigrants, they will not want to make that public. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of people, due to religious reasons, and being very modest, if I want to put it like that,
sure,
they probably do not want to disturb their siblings,
or
their blood ties, or their parents. And they think if they were to bring the facts out, and I mean the truth, mm-hmm, then it will create some sort of disturbances among the siblings and the family relationship. So they leave it to lie. So that's an important issue, because that then creates problems after the person passes away.
Sheikh Mohammed, you're absolutely correct, and that is the primary thing that we see, and that is that people have not done their planning and have not thought of these things. And I'm here to say that in my opinion, it is better to consider bringing these things out before you pass on, before you die, before you become incapacitated and with Alzheimer's or with another illness, than later. And what I see terrible stories and horror stories, and they really are horrible. And there are a lot of people I cannot help because of things that they did not plan for. What happens is this: you think that things will turn out well. You think that your children or your parents or your brother or your sister will take care of things.
Right.
And more often they will. The problem is there's the other times, and it's not just once in a million years, it happens frequently. I get calls every single day of people who need representation because something unexpected happened, and that is another person did something wrong. Money is a motivator that changes people and causes people to do things. Money is like, it causes terrible things to happen sometimes and people to behave in unexpected ways. And if you do your advanced planning...
So basically you are saying that people should...
Yes.
...have some plan for the estate and their property. So we're going to get to that.
Good.
And I want to get to that in details, and I would really love you to explain that, if it means to the point of motivating our viewers to start doing something like that, because they may be thinking that they will disturb siblings and children and offsprings, but at the end of the day, if they die, then they leave more chaos and corruption as opposed to a little issue before. And that's where people like you come in. And I love your name, you know. Your name, Trusin. And I know you and your advice will be very true about situations like this. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. And by the way, I loved when you said the truth. The truth is very powerful.
Yes.
But you have to let the truth come out. The truth will come out, and it's a beautiful thing. It will come out if you allow it, but if you suppress the truth, that's the problem. And by not confronting these things and dealing with them, it may be easier while you're alive, it may be easier when you're younger. The problem is later it will be more difficult.
More difficult.
And that's where you leave a family, and it can cause chaos, and often does, and it's a very sad thing.
Right. So before we get into those details, I would really love to hear your experience in lawyers policing. I love that terminology.
Sure.
Because, you know, there are a lot of cases that may have been misunderstood, and those that may have been the fact, but, you know, because of people not having a better understanding of the legal system, a lot of times it creates unnecessary misunderstanding. What I'm saying here is that as much as a husband and wife going to a lawyer, many a times you hear of lawyers, and that's where you need to come in. You're a man in the legal field. I looked at your background. You have served on so many boards, you know, in different areas, in the legal bar association and different categories. So what advice could you give to people, lawyers out there, parents who want to make their children lawyers, students who are becoming lawyers? What are some of those ethics that they don't live up to, or those problems, or what do you mean by lawyers policing. What does it mean of how to, put these lawyers on the right track, that they don't go off, they don't do what they should not do? What do we mean by that?
Okay, well, in every profession, whether it's engineers, doctors, lawyers, or anybody, there should be some regulation to make sure that people who are working with the public are actually working properly, following the law, following the rules, and lawyers are no exception. What makes lawyers unique in Florida and some other states is that lawyers police themselves and they regulate themselves, meaning that we have a bar association, the Florida Bar. The Florida Bar is charged with the responsibility, and it's a serious responsibility, to make sure that lawyers are acting ethically and responsibly. Now,
I'm smiling because lawyers are people who are supposed to uphold the law. And they stand by the law, but sometimes they themselves break the law.
and of course, and that
Or do they use the law to break the law?
what happens is in every profession, there's a saying, you have some bad apples in the bunch, and you do. And you also have some people who aren't necessarily bad, but they're not trained properly, or they're young and they have an error in judgment, and they make a mistake. We all make mistakes. So what the Florida Bar does is, first of all, it establishes rules for conduct of lawyers. For instance, you can't steal a client's money, things like that. But there are a lot of rules, but because of the responsibility that lawyers have.
But do lawyers do that?
Well,
fine prints?
That very, very few do, but the ones who do get caught easily. And the nice thing is that the Florida Bar has set up a system to catch people like that. So you steal a client's money, if a bank sees anything unusual, the bank is obligated to report it to the Florida Bar. Lawyers have to keep their clients' money in something called a client trust account, and they have to account to the Florida Bar annually. But if a bank sees that account overdrawn, they must report it to the Florida Bar, and the Florida Bar will take immediate action if necessary to freeze the account, and they do that to protect the public. So most lawyers are decent and honest people who try to do the right thing, and they should be doing that. But we want to make sure that everybody does, and there's a way to address that. So when something happens and a client, say, is upset with a lawyer, they have a way of addressing that, and they can do that by making a complaint to the Florida Bar, and that will be handled by the Florida Bar. And I chaired 2 committees where we actually addressed that. And so everybody knows these committees are composed of lawyers and non-lawyers. And I found that the lawyers were the ones who were most interested in aggressively policing the lawyers. That was what I saw. Lawyers don't want to deal with other lawyers who are like that. They want their profession to be honorable. They want to do the right thing
because
the
the
public
name
good.
lawyer stands for the law,
Sure.
and they should be, and they are the people who are supposed to be standing by the law and for the law.
Without the law, we have chaos. Without a way of addressing our grievances, we'd be all with fists or something like that. The law is very important, and we have to honor and respect the law, because that's a bedrock of our civilization.
Now, I have a question on the marriage counseling area. From a legal point of view, is there anything within the ethics of law if a lawyer sees that there is a husband and wife who they're going through a problem, the lawyer now uses, legally he or she can find a way to get away from this, but I'm speaking of ethics now. If that lawyer sees that the husband and wife can and they could make this marriage work, but because he sees or she sees a lot of money in a case like this that lawyer can make, and they work towards a divorce,
I see what
where they
you're
can
saying.
make a big sum of money at the end of the day by helping either one of the party. Is that against the ethics? Is there any fine print about that?
I will tell you that's a very interesting question, and one that nobody's ever asked me. I'm going to answer it in 2 parts. First of all, from my perspective.
Well, in my field, in the Islamic world, I always loved jurisprudence, Islamic jurisprudence, which is the legal law aspect. And that was one of the areas that I sort of specialized in. So I love speaking to people like you with this sort of legal experience and legal background.
Well, thank you, and I love it too, of course. And I will tell you that that actually dovetails into what the first part of my answer, which is that as part of what I do, when somebody comes in and they have a dispute, or they may have a dispute, or they want to sue somebody, I'm a litigator. I go into court.
Excellent.
But what I do is the first thing I do is I try to evaluate what is the problem, what is their goal, what's the quickest, easiest, and least expensive way to meet their goal, and I try to actually tell people not to litigate. I dissuade them from litigating. People come into my office, and I'll more often than not talk them out of hiring me or any lawyer, because I think there are better ways to resolve disputes, or less expensive ways. You give a lawyer a case and tell them to litigate it, and they do it. That's great. That's what they do. You tell a surgeon to go in and operate, they're going to operate. But not every medical issue requires surgery, and not every case requires that. So my personal ethics tell me that I want to evaluate this, and I get better clients, and I'm more successful because I do that. Because when I do that, I filter out the people who want to litigate because they're angry at somebody. I don't litigate over spite. I filter out the people who really should be talking to somebody and resolving it, and I try to facilitate that. The people who are left are the ones with true disputes, and even there, I try to resolve things without ever going into court. And if you do have to go to court, I always keep my focus. Always keep your focus on this. Look at what your client really wants to achieve, not what you as a lawyer want, but what your client wants to achieve, and what is the quickest way to achieve that, which may be mediating the case. It may be talking to the other side and saying, let's settle it in a cooperative mediation.
And that's the point I want to get at. What if the husband comes to you and says that the lawyer worked out a plan with the wife that, listen, we can make a mint out of this husband, properties, assets, etc. And the husband comes to you and complains that the lawyer, instead of mediating this case to get the better out of it for the couple, the husband and wife, he worked towards getting money out of it and ruining the marriage. So what would you tell? Well, do you get involved in cases like that?
I don't.
Or appeal that case, or find a way to get back that money, or whatever?
So what I do is this. I don't handle a family law, but what I can answer the question in a broad way, and I think I'll be able to actually answer the question that you're asking. And that is, as I said, I told you about my personal feelings, my personal ethics. We have in this country an adversary system. That means, unlike other countries that have something called civil law, lawyers represent somebody, and the other side gets a lawyer, and they represent that person, and they're adversarial. They're supposed to be basically adversaries, and you go to court, and the court will figure out who's right and who's wrong, whether it's a judge or it's a jury. It's adversarial. So technically speaking, a client comes to a lawyer and says, I have a case and I want to do something. As long as it's ethical and proper and there's really something there, if the lawyer takes on the case, they're obligated, and it's a solemn duty, they're obligated to zealously advocate their client. And I believe that. I'm passionate about advocating for my clients. It's just that I personally will not take a case I don't believe in. I won't take a case that I think is where people are motivated by the wrong thing. And I believe my goal as a litigator is to not litigate or to end litigation, because I want to solve problems. Now, you've raised a very interesting point, and I want to address. That is, if a lawyer knows that the case could easily be resolved and doesn't need to go on with all this needless litigation, do they have an ethical duty? And I don't believe that they have an ethical duty to tell their client, well, you shouldn't do this, you should resolve it, because a lot of times, you mentioned a divorce case. I think it's something to discuss. I don't think it's a lawyer's decision a lawyer's obligation, or a lawyer should be addressing people and telling them from a moral or ethical perspective they shouldn't do it. I won't take a case like that, but I'm not sure that a lawyer should be telling them not to. However...
But the lawyer has a choice not to take the case.
Of course. And I will say this also, if a lawyer does this, and a lawyer does work that doesn't need to be done, or typically lawyers like that are going to go way overboard. They're going to do a lot of unnecessary work, and a lot of lawyers might also actually do the wrong thing. They may not follow the rules. They may take actions that, as lawyers we call, are frivolous, meaning there's no true legal or factual basis, but they do it anyway. And that's where we come back to lawyers and the law policing themselves. Judges can police this when they see it. As a lawyer, if I see it, I have ways of bringing this up in front of a judge. And fortunately, Florida law gives me many tools to address it, including a legal tool called a proposal for settlement, which I can make. And if they don't settle with me, then I win. They may have to pay my client's attorney's fees. And nobody wants that.
Yes.
So there are many ways of handling this. But I will say that because our system is, in this country, for better for worse, an adversary system, lawyers, if they're going to take a client's case and the client asks them to do something, if the lawyer is interested in taking the case and wants to, and there's nothing unethical about it, a lawyer is obligated to do what their client says.
Yeah.
And that's where our system works.
Okay, now we have been speaking for the past 15, 20 minutes. Time has just gone. And that's interesting because the topic, the issue is very interesting. However, we're going to go for a short commercial break. When we get back, we really want to continue on this aspect of the guardianship and the estate planning, the importance of people doing such things or people being forced to sign their will against their will, if I want to put it like that.
That's well put.
And then you have a problem later on due to family, blood ties, siblings, etc. When we come back, I also want to ask you a question because I know that you, of course, came from a Jewish background and I from a Muslim Islamic background. So I want to find out from the Islamic Jewish point of view, humanity point of view, general, but I know the Torah is the book of law. The Quran is also the book of law. And the Quran is a combination of the lessons in the Bible, the Psalms, and the Torah. So when it comes to ethics of law, and you just mentioned something which is very interesting, and I really want you to explain to the audience after. So I'm going to let the audience do some thinking, keep tuned on so we can get back and continue that discussion of the issue around a bad case, a criminal, the guy that commits the wrong. The lawyer knows he is the crook, he's the criminal, he did everything wrong. What is it around ethics for a lawyer to defend someone like that? Should he, could he? Yes, he could legally, but should he? We want to discuss that because this has always become a question. People have been asking me, should I study law if I know I have to do such and such? You know what I'm saying?
I'll be happy to address that, of course.
When we get back after the short break, we want to discuss that for viewers worldwide because a person with your experience, it is phenomenal to have your advice and your experience around that area.
Thank you, Sheikh Mohammed.
So we have been speaking to Mr. Bradley Trushin, an attorney at law, a man with a lot of experience with lawyers and in the legal field. When we return after the short break, we're going to continue some interesting discussion around some very important issues pertaining to humanity, law, and the way to live, the way to die in a very peaceful way. Thank you very much.
Alhikmat Services, serving the Muslim community and non-Muslim community. Dawah and interfaith activities, distribution of Quran and Islamic publications, sponsoring students to study Islam, Alhikmat Da'i, Dawah and Interfaith Institute. Also, Friday sermons by Shaikh Shafayat are live on alhikmattv.com from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Download our free Alhikmat TV app on your mobile devices. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to donate to Alhikmat Dawah Services online with a credit card or PayPal at alhikmat.com. For more details, contact Alhikmat office at 1-800-804-0267 or our local number 954-986-0158 and visit us at www.alhikmat.com. Jazakallah khair.
Welcome back to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. Again, it is a pleasure to have attorney at law Mr. Bradley Trushin with us in Alhikmat studio. And as we said before we went on the break, he's a man of great experience in the legal field. So welcome back to the show, Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Sheikh Mohammed.
Again, as we ended before the short break, I would like to have you share with our audience, viewers out there worldwide, a person who commits a crime, how ethical it is for a lawyer to know that he is really defending a criminal.
It's a great question, and one that I think a lot of people struggle and wrestle with. And
of course, because from a religious point of view, from a Jewish point of view, I think we should be on the same page, because Orthodox Judaism and Islam is on the same page that you should not really defend a crime.
Right. And absolutely, and that there's an attunement, a strong attunement to ethics, morals, and people who are very devout are thinking about these things all the time. And
people ask me, students, should I study law if I know I'm going to defend evil?
So here's what I want to say, and I feel so strongly about this. I'm so glad you asked me and gave me the opportunity to say this. First of all, I personally believe, and we discussed this at a break, that I think that that we need more diversity, and that mirrors the real world among lawyers. And we have it in other professions, but not as much in lawyers. And we have more females who are going to law schools, more women than men right now. But when it comes to cultural diversity, people of color, people of different religions and ethnicities, that's much less. And I think it's very, very important for that. So I would like all your viewers, Muslims or non-Muslims, to seriously consider, if they're interested, learn about it, and seriously consider going into law school, because I want society, and I hope others want society, to be more inclusive. And I think it would be better for all of us if we have more diversity. We live in a multicultural world. Now, in answer to your specific question, which is a great one and is asked a lot, in this country we have a constitution, and the constitution is like the bedrock principles, and all the laws that are hundreds and thousands of pages all have to be based on the Constitution and have to follow the Constitution. So the Constitution says that people in this country are innocent until proven guilty, and that's not the way it is in many other countries. I don't criticize other legal systems. It's not for me to do, but I will say that in this country, innocent until proven guilty is based on the idea that the founding fathers of this country, when they were in their original countries, they were persecuted and there was tyranny, and they experienced situations in which the government, with the awesome power, you're guilty, and they didn't receive due process. So in this country, we say that you are innocent, and the government, and this gets to what you asked me, the government is obligated to prove its case. The Constitution says the government must prove its case.
That's a very interesting point. I love that.
And so when I'm going to answer your exact question as best I can, and that is when a lawyer, I don't do criminal law. I don't think that I have the stomach for it.
Oh, I like that.
But I greatly respect lawyers who do this, and lawyers who prosecute and lawyers who defend. The prosecutors, that's easy. I believe in law and order myself, and I think that it's very important that we have laws and we adhere to them. And I think on that regard, we think quite alike, Sheikh. When it comes to defending people, which was your question, the Constitution says that people should get a defense, and that the government must prove its entire case. The government can't just say you're guilty and throw you in jail. And we're so serious about this under the Constitution that we have all these safeguards. And while I don't do this work, I admire the lawyers and I respect the lawyers who force the government to prove the case.
And that's so very interesting. And that has been the missing link that a lot of people have misunderstood. And I really love that answer. And I think our viewers out there would really benefit on that fact, that you are innocent until proven guilty. Because there are a lot of people really who have been hanged, who have been jailed for the rest of their life and died, and later on it came to pass that they were innocent. They were innocent. And
a lot of people, and they were wrongly
judged because of some case that went by and was misunderstood, and it was made to be understood that, on the 9 yards, the person was guilty. So this legalizes the fact that a lawyer could and should take a case of a person who is being alleged, who is an alleged criminal, and this lawyer will have to work the case through.
Make the case, exactly. And
based on the Constitution.
Right, and Sheikh, it is personally, this is why I don't do criminal law. It's personally difficult for me to think that I'm representing somebody that I know is probably guilty, but I'm going to force the government to prove its case. Those lawyers who do that are actually doing a service to the Constitution. I'm a victim of violent crime myself. I'm kind of a law and order person, and I want to see criminals in jail myself. I would rather not commit crimes, but I do understand and have great respect for
the legal
system enforcing that. And when we don't have that, what we have is tyranny. And by tyranny, I mean we have governments that will throw anybody in jail who opposes them, anybody who wants to deal with corruption, they'll have them assassinated or put in jail. And we're not supposed to have that in this country. And part of that is this bedrock document, the Constitution, and that protects all of us, even when...
I like the point of the government, because one of the first bunch of people who can make a person a criminal is the government.
Right.
Because if the government does not like the opposition of a person who stands for truth, they can find a reason to nail him.
That's right.
Crucify him and put him in jail for the rest of his life.
Truth is, as I said before, truth is a beautiful thing, and people understand truth, but if it can never get out because people are thrown into jail without due process, that's a problem. So, as I said, I personally would have great difficulty doing that, and that's why I admire the lawyers who do, and I hope that your viewers will, understanding this, seriously consider a career in
Every
law.
time you say truth, I look at your name, Trushin, and I know there's some connection with truth and Trushin.
I've never thought about
like
that, but I appreciate that, and it's very flattering. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Now, before we get into the estate planning for parents or elders, as the case may be, there's an interesting point that you made, and I want to compliment you on it also, that your recommendation for immigrants, Muslims, people of different colors, races, and religions should get into law, because it gives that face of legal representation in the land, and the presence of different colors and different races and different people.
It's what this country is founded upon, and it's my opinion, and we are stronger with diversity. We're stronger when we're multicultural. We're stronger when people of different ethnicities, different faiths, different backgrounds all engage in the law. We are better for it. And when I was a little boy, my father took me to the Dade County Courthouse, and I'll never forget the Sheikh. He pointed out two water fountains, and I was a little child. I was very young. I was probably 4 or under. And my father said that was the water fountain that black people had to use, and they called it a colored water fountain. And my father grew up in the South, and he saw how black people were treated. And it's why he became a lawyer. He couldn't believe it. He was upset. His entire life, he couldn't understand that. And he imparted that in me, and he showed this to me. And when I saw this and he explained to me about slavery, I cried. I cried all afternoon. And it's never, that feeling has never left me. That idea that we can be so unjust here. And it was in a courthouse of all places. So I have great respect for the law. I understand what it used to be. But if we want the law to be better and we want to maintain what we have, we want to maintain the Constitution and its principles, I think it's very important that people of every background become involved in it. And that's what this country is founded on. We are stronger because we are diverse. And I would implore your listeners to consider this as a career and educate themselves in the law, if at all possible. We would all be better for it.
Now, be that as it may, I have also seen in my experience that if a Muslim has a legal matter, they would prefer to choose a Jewish lawyer. I don't know about it from the Jewish side. If a Jewish person has a legal matter, would they go to a Jewish lawyer or would they go to a Christian lawyer? My reason for saying that is sometimes, you see, when you go to the judge and the judge sees a lawyer by the name of Muhammad, is defending the case of another guy named Muhammad,
I see
it
what
looks
you're
like
saying.
a conflict of interest.
I see. Oh, but goodness,
But
it's
if
not.
there is a, it's not. It's not supposed to
I
be in the
see.
legal system.
I understand the perception.
But what I've seen, though, many times, if a Muslim, and I'm just speaking generally, so I don't want our viewers out there to misunderstand what I'm saying. Generally, the Muslim guy does not take it for granted that the Muslim lawyer is just, brushing off the case here and there. So I see a lot of times, I see a lot of Jewish patients go to Muslim doctors. I don't know if you have seen that. A lot of Muslim doctors, do you know most of their patients are Christians and Jews?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that some of my personal physicians are Muslim. So
I've seen that.
It's an interesting viewpoint, and I would say
Are
that
you seeing a kind of confidence in that?
I see what you're saying. So my viewpoint is this, and maybe it's a different viewpoint. I think people should go to a doctor or a lawyer or whomever because it's the best doctor or lawyer.
Excellent.
And that's what I think.
Not
they
by
should
the
be doing.
religion.
Not by the religion. And I really think people should have the confidence to do that. So if somebody is Muslim and they would prefer to go to a Muslim lawyer, either because they know them, they were recommended by a friend or a family member, or they just prefer it for any reason, that is their right. They should be able to do it, and they should be able to do it without regard for a fear that they're going to be treated poorly. And the
But
more
the professional should also treat the client professionally and do not take the client for granted. And you got to understand this happens because, you're my congregant, or you're my congregational member,
You have to
or you're from
separate
my...
it.
We got to learn to be professional and separate this.
it is a lawyer.
But have you
you
seen
have
that
to.
happening around?
Well, I would say this. I know that a lot of men who are getting divorced want a female lawyer to represent them.
Oh, interesting.
That's
But-
where I see it.
So we are thinking on the same
Yeah,
page. That's what I mean.
I see that, and that's something that for me personally, that doesn't resonate for me because I just say go to the best.
And what about a
professional.
woman? A woman wants a man to represent her, or she prefers a woman to
A
represent
lot
her?
of women would prefer to have a man represent them, either because they feel that they want a man to be confronting their husband in court. Unfortunately,
Excellent.
some people still feel that they want a man doing something because they think somehow they'll be better. But I reject that completely. That means that because I'm a man, I'm going to be more competent. No, and your ethnicity, your sex, your sexual preference, none of this has anything to do. Your religion, none of it has anything to do with how you will function in your profession. So I do not understand it myself, but I think people have the right to do that. I would just, as I said, I think it would be a shame for anybody to choose me for any reason other than they think that I'll be a terrific lawyer for them and that I will fight for them, I'll advocate for them, I'm passionate about the law, and I know the difference between right and wrong. That's what I want people to do. But yes, of course, Sheikh, I understand that people will do that.
People do have the wrong perception and concept. So at the end of the day, we are saying doctors, lawyers, they should be professional in treating their clients. Doesn't matter what race or religion they come from. And the clients should choose their professional representatives based on their qualification and ability to represent them.
I would think so. And if there's any lawyer or doctor, any profession who does not want to represent somebody because they're a different religion or they're a different race, I don't have any respect for that doctor or lawyer. And
that's unprofessional.
I wouldn't let them be mine, and I wouldn't want to affiliate with them. That's not what I want to see.
Of course. So, time just goes again. So we got 5 minutes to wrap up.
Okay.
I know it's less than that, but we're going to try to cut and fit between that. I would really love, and we left, you always leave the best for the last. Your advice to our viewers worldwide, and this is worldwide. I mean, East, Far East, West, local, national, international. What advice would you give for estate planning?
And thank you for the opportunity to address it at all. I would say to people, do not fear the idea of planning for the future, because if you plan for the future, you can then live your life securely, understanding that if you become ill and you can't handle your own finances, that things will be done the way you want. Your business will be handled the way you want. and not for other people. That a judge applying the law, because you didn't do an estate plan, the judge will just apply the law. You may not want that. You don't want the state of Florida and a judge following the state of Florida's laws to decide what to do with your property and your business, and you want to make your decisions yourself. There are also tax reasons in this country why you want to do that planning, and that's very important too. It also has to do with not causing problems, and you raised this before, Sheikh. People feel that they don't want to address these things because it's a matter of not ruffling feathers, modesty, not causing an issue, or culturally, because of respect for parents, they can't say anything or do anything. Here's why I differ in that, and I strongly differ. I receive calls every day, and I go to court and I litigate over a lot of issues that are created because people didn't do advanced planning. And because they didn't, after they pass on or they become ill, then you have problems.
So whom should they call if they want to do advanced planning?
Well,
a person is 95 years, 85 years, 90, and they
or
want...
could be 30.
Could be 30, yes.
Sure.
Whom should they call for advice, and what should they do?
I strongly urge people to speak with a lawyer. You can do a will on the internet, and there's a lot of litigation over that. If everything isn't done perfectly, it will not be enforceable, and then lawyers can argue over that, and you don't want that to happen afterwards. So you see a lawyer. We do it at my firm, and there are many firms that handle estate planning. Part of that is deciding how you want things to be set up in the event that you're incapacitated.
The full name of your firm for...
Well, thank you. The name of the firm is Chepnik Trushin LLP, and we're located in North Miami, Florida.
Chepnik Trushin LLP.
LLP. It sounds very very lawyer-like.
No, but that is very interesting. I mean, people can call you. Let me ask you another question. So someone listening to this program in the Caribbean, in Hawaii, in Dubai, and they want to get some advice, could they call you?
We'd be happy to take a call, and we do get calls from all around. We are Florida lawyers, so we address Florida law.
Right. You may have a person who has living in Dubai or in the Caribbean but got properties here.
And yes, and we can help them, absolutely.
You see my point.
If they have any business or property in Florida that's connected to Florida, or any advice at all, we handle that, and we address that from the estate planning perspective, which includes tax, regulations, that are federal regulations that affect the tax. So if somebody has property or money and they want to live in the U.S. or they just want to invest in the U.S. and get a visa to do that, we don't handle the immigration end of it, but we will handle the planning part of that, inbound transfers of their property and money to facilitate that. And of course, people can call us. We are Florida lawyers, so we deal with Florida law.
Right, but if a person lives in another country and they got all their properties there, but they feel confident in talking to Mr. Bradley Trushin in Miami on their property, they're a millionaire, they got millions in properties, and they want to get your advice before they take a lawyer locally. Is that possible? I mean, you may not be able to deal with the case, but you may be able to advise them how to deal with their case.
Sure, and I certainly, that wouldn't be.
I know there will be a fee, right?
Of course,
yes.
But there wouldn't be. Otherwise, I'd be getting a million calls, and I'd be dealing with them instead of working on my cases. But unfortunately, that happens. However, I certainly wouldn't have any problem with talking with somebody and giving them some broad ideas to think about and make sure things to think about in hiring a lawyer. For their assets, but again, the legal advice that we give has to do with Florida law. But if you're going to engage
but they can
a
consult
lawyer,
you,
sure,
as long as there's a fee,
yeah,
because of your expertise, your experience in the area, litigation, appealing of cases. Sometimes people take, I'm not saying the wrong lawyer, but they may take a lawyer who can do something, but he's not the expert on that case. And that's where you might be able to help them out. And I hear of cases like that. People get family friends, they get someone down the line, the matter is not well done, they die and go, and it's all corrupted.
I'm always happy to consult on anything if I can help somebody, but I would encourage people to...
Listen, as long as you've been paid for it, that's the bottom line. That is good consultation.
Right. And well, I do a lot of work that I'm not paid for, which is charitable work, but yes, I do have to keep my employees,
of course,
have to pay my employees and so on. But that's my one point, is that do your estate planning and your advanced medical directives,
Yes.
and let everybody know what you want, and there will be fewer problems when you pass on.
Wonderful.
And then you won't have lawyers litigating over what happens in an estate and whether the will was right or not, because you will have done it right the first time. And that's something I tell everybody.
So thank you very much, Mr. Bradley Trishan. It has really been a pleasure to have you. I learned a lot in talking to you. And what I must say is that the good thing is that I didn't have to pay you to talk to you. I like that. Most of the times you sit with a lawyer to get advice and get his experience, you got to pay. So I want to thank you for not having to pay a fee to talk about this. And I think our viewers worldwide benefited from your advice and your message. And it's like a consultation sort of interview. They would have learned a lot. And it's a blessing. May God bless you. May He guide you. May He guide us all. And I would like to invite you back on the show so we can talk maybe on some line of community services. There were some areas we were talking when we went on the break. Time does not permit us on this show.
Yes.
But we can get into some other areas and probably elaborate a little more when you have the time and when we can plug this on sometime down in the future. So
Anytime.
thank you very much. And you got 3 seconds before I close.
It was a pleasure and an honor, Sheikh Mohammed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And to our viewers out there, it has been a pleasure and honor. And I consider it a blessing to have had Mr. Bradley Trishan, an attorney at law, experience in the legal aspects of things. Thank you, viewers, again, worldwide, for looking, for tuning on. Feel free to continue to tune on to Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. Assalamu alaikum. May the peace and blessings of God Almighty be upon you. We praise Allah, right? Well, you see brothers and brothers fighting for money and property. Sisters, brothers, fathers, children. Look at our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. 1400 years ago, he said, I don't fear that you guys will do shirk, assign partners to Allah. But my fear is you will envy your brother and your sister for worldly things. When they have these worldly accomplishments, you will envy it.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to Alhikmat TV for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah is the creator of different faces. Allah is the creator. Allah, Allahu, 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 Allah. Allahu, 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 Allah. All praises are due to Allahu, Allah. All praises are due to Allahu, Allah. Allahu, 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 Allah. Allahu.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you would like to dedicate copies of one of these publications as Sadaqah Jariyah, continuous blessings for your parents or dear ones who have passed away, or fi sabilillah, in the path of Allah, please give us a call so we can place your names on these dedicated publications. You can call us at 954-986-0158, or you can also visit us at www.alhikmat.com.
Allah is the creator of different faces. Allah is the creator of all races. Allahu, 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 Allah.
Wafiq Transport Limited. Contact 715-6463 or 673-0152. Located at 86 Orenfield Road, Karapi, Chima. Services include vacuum, septic services, sock pile, sand gravel, etc., trailers, heavy equipment for sale such as flatbeds, drop decks, container trailers, and lots more.
Southern Hatcheries Limited. Suppliers of both live and processed broiler chickens. Parts available in both tray packs and case bags to suit your needs. Leg and thighs, wings, liver and gizzard. Also suppliers of both live and processed ducks. All meats strictly halal. Visit us at 440 Komodo Road, Barrackport. Or call us at 654-3938 or 361-08.
Ya Nabi, Salam Alayka, Ya Habib.
Bounty Kings, Bounty Castles presents brand new luxury castles for all events. You can contact us at telephone number 749-4342, or you can also email us at bountykings1@gmail.com. A-Class Glamour presents to you wholesaling and retailing of premium lines of cosmetics for all skin types, designer jewelry, and many accessories. Brands include ColourPop, Maybelline, Revlon Professional, Urban Decay, Sephora, and many more. To get a hold of these products, you can call Sadiq Khan at 345-5824 or Amira Khan at 759-6089. You can also visit our Facebook page at A-Class Glamour to follow for newly released lines of products.
सदक़े में आका सारे जहां को दीन मिला बेदीनों ने कलमा पढ़ा ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह तेरे सदक़े में आका सारे जहां को दीन मिला बेदीनों ने कलमा पढ़ा ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह.
If you'd like to advertise or be a sponsor of this show, please contact Alhikmat office. Telephone number 1954-986-0158 or 1-868-325-8276. Or you can email us at alhikmat@alhikmat.com.
Truly he is the one, he has no father or son.